Good evening, everyone. Hope you're all doing well, and thanks for coming along. If you're joining us on Facebook, we welcome you as well. My name is Henley Samuel. I'm the president of Gungahlin Community Council. We don't have a big agenda tonight, but we should be able to focus on what we got and able to get some positive outcome. So what we have tonight, before I go into what's the schedule for tonight, please note this meeting is being recorded and available on Facebook. So if you don't follow us on Facebook, please do so. I'm just trying to do multitasking as we go, so please bear with me. So tonight we got a GCC update, so we're going to update on what's happening in the GCC world, and also we're going to have speakers from the KC Development Community Group. So we'll have an update what's going on with that development, and we have the action group here, KC Community Action Group. So good to have them tonight. So we will we'll hear from them as well what's happening and what the progress and what's the status with that one. So just a couple of quick admin changes with the committee at the moment. So there are a couple of things happening within the executive members. So we lost a few members for the personal reasons, and so they resigned. We got a few resignation happening. The good news is we do have other community people willing to join the community at the moment. So Shah Jilani at the moment is a secretary of the Gungahlin Community Council, so you'll be a vice president moving forward. And we are having two new addition to the committee, which will be Mithun and Michael. Thank you, Mithun and Michael. We welcome you to the committee. We also want to thank Ralitza and Pradeep for their contribution while they were in the community council. Thank you very much for your contribution as well. So these are some changes that I want to bring to the attention tonight. Other than that, we'll move to, so we had a meeting with TCCS few weeks back now about Arabi Pond upgrades, and this picture is really horrible. I'm not sure whether you can see it, but good news is we got some dot points coming up soon. So we had the meeting with them, and based on the discussion, there are some updates that's been considered. There are some budget they are seeking at the moment. So I'll just go through that quickly. So at the moment, the location for lighting and upgrades are still being worked on, which is kind of which is a very important thing for the community, considering the safety in that region. And the risk assessment, it's have not been conducted at this stage. So that would be great to identify those critical areas so that we get the lightings around the Arabi Pond. And some areas have been highlighted, and as if the budget permits, probably we might get that action. Toilet facilities will be upgraded in the Gungahlin Wunderlich Street playground, so which is great, and as well as in Descent Street. And they also showed some of those pictures to us, which is looking great. And one of the highlights is probably the toilets and the barbecue area will be separated. This is a positive outcome. I know it's just a common sense, but these days, it's all good to have these things separated, which is great. And the Arabi Pond waterfront picnic facilities have been scoped, but we haven't got any details on that at this stage. The floating wetland have been repaired from the recent storm, which is great. I also have some parking update. I'll get Darren to make that comments at the later stage once I'll cover these ones. Have a look at these pictures, and I'm going to tell some story about this picture shortly. See, the trees you've seen that being identified as being intentionally vandalized in that region, and investigation is underway at the moment, which is not great, but hopefully these kind of things can be avoided in future. And the much beloved pelican statues, 2 or 3, seems to be stolen, which is interesting. I don't know what people would do those things with, but yeah. So that's what's happening on that space, and we do have a parking update. Do you want to come quickly?
So along this area here, this was where originally it was slated for parking upgrades. So I think it was probably about 10 years ago. They had a plan here to upgrade the parking for the shopping precinct here. Because anybody that's gone in this particular area, they can't park in this area. There's nowhere really to park. After talking to TCCS, there's a couple of additional car parks that they're planning on putting here. And they're going to put some line markings and things along this area here where cars are already parking. But we don't think that that's going to really make much of a difference. So when I asked TCCS about this area here, why they've gone away from what was originally their plan to put parking in this area, this is slated for, I think it's active travel, so a bike lane sort of travelling through there, which we're not necessarily against, but there's a pretty wide medium strip there. If there could be some extra parks there in order to help alleviate the situation. One of the other big problems too is that without adding more parking spaces in this area, what they've done is that they've had the parking inspectors actually come down 2 or 3 times a day in this area. And so initially the reason why we brought this to the government's attention was in relation to trying to help alleviate some of the problems with the businesses. But what they've done is completely the opposite. They've actually driven customers away from the area by being too overzealous with booking the patrons of the particular areas down there. And unfortunately, due to some of these concerns, some of the businesses have closed down since. So we've had a net negative reaction here. So as far as small businesses go, the entire area along here, the footpaths and things like that, are an absolute disaster area. They're worse than what they've ever been before. And for whatever reason, we can't get the government to actually come down and help us to actually clean up that area. The big concern for me has always been the fact that a lot of these businesses, they pay business rates. So they pay a lot more than what we would for any residential area, and they're not really getting anything for that extra money that they're paying, and they're going out of business because the government hasn't really reacted to the parking concerns, and if anything, made it worse. So it hasn't been great, but the new planning that they've got doesn't add any more parking spaces in there. So the thing that we've been waiting for 10 years has essentially not materialised. And unfortunately, some of these businesses, again, have gone out of business, which is what we warned would potentially happen. Now, you could say that maybe those businesses weren't viable, but one of the things that I'm always concerned about in these types of areas is it's really difficult to get small businesses that are cafes and restaurants and things like that to keep them open, essentially. And that's really what the government doesn't seem to be very good at. It's just sort of like listen to shopkeepers and actually respond to their particular needs. Now, as ratepayers in residential areas, when we talk about the lawns being mowed or the things being done, you would expect the government to react or actually come down and actually talk about what your issues are. But apart from me constantly going down and talking to the businesses all the time, they don't hear anything from the government. Now, the fact that I've raised it, I'd say probably 1,000 times with the government about various issues that are related to them, they've never visited once to really talk to the shopkeepers about what they want. So my whole argument is always they're happy to take their money in the business rates, but not really willing to supply to the businesses the things that they need in order to continue as a business. And parking is one of those. And I kind of feel like sometimes I'm kind of like caught on the meat in the sandwich type thing between the businesses and the government, try and work out resolutions, when really what I'm trying to do is get government and the businesses to come together to talk to each other so that they can directly sort of understand what their issues are and come up with solutions. And unfortunately, because of that breakdown in communication type thing, sometimes they do the opposite and actually make it harder for them. So pretty disappointed in the parking issues here, but I have raised that with TCCS. You know, I guess it's not completely a done deal yet, but this is the reason why we got them to come and actually do a survey in this area to talk to shopkeepers about some of the issues that were going on there. because it is a little bit complicated. Along here, for example, when we have events and things like that at Yarrabee Pond here, there's not enough parking. And essentially what happens is when we're trying to get people to come into these events, all these areas are full of cars, nobody can get down. So in events that happen down at Yarrabee Pond, you don't get the patronage, and when you don't get the patronage, you can't run the events. So it's kind of like a chicken and egg type scenario. So we have some things with the toilets, facilities and the lighting and stuff like that, which is great. It's coming along. There's some things that we would prefer them to do, but the parking situation remains, and hopefully in the future we can sort of work some things out with the government.
Thanks, Darren. Yeah, I think they were the Yarrabee Ponds and the parking. It's been kind of an ongoing issue. Sorry, do you have a question or something?
Do you know if the Yarrabee, if they're in the business system, they also take general rents into consideration? Because not just at night, but also during the day, especially seeing the events, the incidents that happen by the month.
So are you referring to the recent security things that happened? I think as for the community council, and we are really greatly concerned some of these things, and especially with I don't think there's no security cameras. I believe there's been no cameras or anything, and I can't imagine in the nighttime being anyone. I don't think anyone can be there in the nighttime because of the lights and stuff. So it's great concern, and I think we raised as part of the meeting as well. They said they will do some upgrades for lighting, but they're still doing a risk assessment. I don't know how long that's risk assessment going to go. I think obviously there's a risk, and we see that every day, and it's obvious. So I hope these kind of issues will be considered as a top priority for the government to be fixed very soon. Cool. Thank you. So before I go to the next speaker, I just want to mention a couple of things about the next month meeting as well. So we have potential speakers. We might get an update from the Gungahlin Town Centre East Precinct from SLA. So come along for the people who've been following about the East Precinct. It'd be a great opportunity for you to come to the actual meeting physically, so you can ask questions. Also, if you're watching online now, I'm happy for you to comment the questions so we can take those questions and get it sorted. And then we got this email today from Block 2, Section 11 in Gungahlin. The developer probably want to give us an update on what's happening there. So we might potentially get another speaker, and we are working on other speakers as well. We might get the police coming soon to the community council again. If you remember last time, we did a petition for the police station in Gungahlin, because the police station currently where they had wasn't sufficient, and they had a lot of issues in terms of privacy for those people who come in and stuff. So, and they also don't have enough space to put their equipment. And now, with the recent event, the police has to vacate that place along with the SES and the fire and the ambulance people. So that building has been completely vacated, and they've been gone into the mobile one, and they've been having difficulties. So we'd be interested to see how that's all going to fit for the people of Gungahlin community.
I think that they've removed it now.
Yeah, they moved as well. So yeah, as of now, they moved now. So, but it would be great to know how they address some of those issues, or if there's any safety concerns, how they operate. So we contacted them. As you can imagine, they are busy at the moment, so probably they might come and provide an update what's happening in the Yarrabee space for the month of April. And then we also been to a meeting about how we want to see Gungahlin for 2045. So that is like a kind of a kick-off meeting, I would say, probably, and they got to engage with the consultancy. They were saying what they were thinking and what the community wants, and we told them to obviously engage with the different community groups in Gungahlin, and I think when you hear them, the one perspective they want to do is like they are focusing more on the public transport, which is great, but they also, we said you also need to consider upgrading the roads. Not just because you can't because at the moment, the Gungahlin, I think Gungahlin is the only place we don't have enough roads which have been duplicated. Consider the other districts, most of the other districts are all duplicated. And some of the issues that we've seen in Casey, again, it's because of the roads and stuff. So there's a bottleneck every single day. And we haven't got the Taylor completed as yet fully. And Jacka is coming. So all these new suburbs going to come. It's going to be a huge issue. So we're great. We are grateful that they are focusing on 2045, but we also want to mitigate the problems that we are facing in the day-to-day aspect. So those are the things we are working at the moment. And any concerns or anything, please do let us know. We would be happy to look into it if it's something happens in your region. And also, as you all know, like the Gungahlin Community Council is a voluntary organisation. We get most of the phone calls for the Access Canberra issues and stuff. So because we appreciate people move to Canberra thinking council is the one who do a lot of things, but in Canberra, in ACT, we are the voluntary organisation. So basically all of our community members working full-time and doing this because they have passion for the community and the welfare of the community. So I do like to thank my team once again, because without them it's really hard. So so we have today Darren and Shah with us, and also new members Mithun and Michael. So thank you so much for coming along. So without further ado, I want to invite
Does the government still hold the regular liaison meetings with the different community councils? They used to be quite regular.
Combined community councils, you mean, or
Sorry?
the combined community councils?
Yeah, the combined community council meeting, yes, that's right.
I'm not too
It
sure.
used to be a regular thing, but not anymore. They don't meet with you regularly?
that we do have catch-ups with some of those agencies, like SLAs do touch base with us now and then, in the TCCS they do, but I know what you mean. Like there's one big forum where they get all the community council and do that. Is that what you're looking? Yeah, so they do sometimes, but I don't see it's very productive anyway, because yeah. But I think it's the personal engagement, like so that I think that works kind of better. But
I can probably answer that. The Gungahlin Community Council has tried to work really closely with TCCS in order to have regular meetings that we can highlight roads and things that we have issues with. And TCCS they've agreed to that. We've had a number of meetings, but they're not as regular as we would like. We would like them sort of cemented in concrete to sort of say it happens, once a month or every couple of months, and it's sort of at the discretion of TCCS when they would like to have those meetings. And the last meeting that we had was not one of those regular kind of meetings. It was more about, this is potentially what our plan is up until 2024, what are your thoughts? But it wasn't really one of those sessions where we could sort of sit there and highlight some of the issues. Previously, that's what we've asked for, because it can be quite complicated when you're talking to TCCS about some of the issues, because they would sort of come back and say, we're working on it, we've got a traffic modelling system that's in place. And then when you've had conversations in the past in relation to what the modelling systems are, it got kind of quite complicated about that there are multiple levels of different traffic models that sort of overlap each other. And it can be quite difficult if some of the particular roads people might not be there in those particular meetings in order to answer specific questions. But we do try and push forward some of the issues that we hear pretty much every day related to the fact that some areas need duplication. When will they happen? What's the time frame? Where's the funding? Because you can't just get a road, you often need the feasibility or those types of things that can take years in order to come through. And what we would like to know is what's the plan for the next 10 years when it comes to road duplication works in Gungahlin. Particularly with the town centre, we raised that pretty strongly with TCCS, that of all of the things that we hear from the community, and if you're out there in the community, we have heard you and we do talk to the government regularly about your opinions of the town centre in particular. that it's very difficult to even get into the town centre, let alone get a park and things like that. And you know, all we hear really is that they're working on a mesoscopic traffic model, but we don't have much detail. We would like more detail so that we can explain to you potentially what's going on.
Cool. Thank you for the question. So as we get any, engagement, we will keep updating the community as well. So watch out this space. Without further ado, I'd like to invite Maggie from the KC Residents Action Group to come and give us a status update. Thank you very much. And Neryl, sorry.
Yeah, driving lesson.
Yeah, so this one you can flick and click. I'll leave the iPad because the audio comes from.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for allowing us to be here tonight to raise our concerns with the council about the proposed development at PC Market Town.
Could you speak a little louder, please?
No, there's
Got a microphone?
Yeah.
Yes, sorry, I have a very quiet voice.
It's the microphone. Of course, yeah.
Thanks. How's that? Yay. Right. So my name's Maggie Chapman. I am a member of the Casey Region Residents Action Group, which is actually just a Facebook group. There's three of us here tonight, Narelle, Fox and Mark Zoric. We're not an incorporated association. Casey does not have an incorporated association to represent it. So we are just a Facebook group. We are concerned residents, and we have been, I guess, leading the charge in relation to this development proposal, which has some major implications for Casey suburbs and also the surrounding region. So, members on the page, and to date we have advocated strongly for Casey. It all started when we became aware of this development proposal, and one of our members initiated an online petition to the Assembly. Thanks. So Phil Epsom was the driver for that. There were over 700 signatories to that petition. So that does indicate the level of interest. The petition was triggered by this development and other development proposals in the Casey area. And it was particularly concerned with the traffic issues in relation to duplication of roads, Clarence Drive, public transport, lack of, etc. So 700 signatures to that. Thanks. Yeah. So that was the first action. Then the DA landed in January. And the first application was for 3 residential towers, ranging in height from 9 to 11 stories. There were 200 representations made to that proposal, and it was comprehensively refused by ACLA. The developer came back with a reconsideration application. They had actually just literally cut out 2 stories and made the 3 towers 9 stories each. Like I said, we're a Facebook group, and it was a mammoth effort on behalf of the community to get 200 representations in first time around. It was a little bit harder the second time to explain to people why they had to go through it all over again and resubmit. So second time around, I think we did really well to get 100 people to lodge submissions. That application was also refused. So the developer went off to the ACAT and lodged an appeal. It was November last year. So we have, it says there, what we've been doing now, because we're not an incorporated association, we're a Facebook group, we were not able to join as a party to the appeal. So all we could do was, we did our best to monitor the situation, what was going on there. Narelle and I attended the first directions hearing on the 11th of December, and orders were issued by the ACAT. We expected those orders to be followed, and we were expecting the ACAT to conduct a viewing of the site on the 26th of February. Lo and behold, we found out last minute that a new directions hearing had been scheduled for the 14th of February, which Narelle and I attended in person. And we found out that there'd been lots of goings on behind the scenes, and the parties had been meeting outside the tribunal and had come to an agreement over amendments that were to be lodged. And we were advised after the hearing that by the ACLA representatives that they didn't consider it was necessary to notify the community of those amendments. I was a bit shocked by that, I have to say. But things have moved on since then, and we can talk about that a bit more. So we have done that. We've also tried to engage with all our Yerrabi MLAs, and thanks to Leanne, and thank you for being here tonight, Leanne. She has been advocating on our behalf. We've been in touch with Minister Steele, both in his capacity as the Minister for Transport and also the Minister for Planning, and we've also made contact with Ms. Lee. And what we're also trying to do is garner some support from the media. They have all previously covered this development proposal, and hopefully they will do it again when it's re-exhibited. So this, so it's block 9. You can see it here. So that's the
You can
triangular.
use the laser. You can use the laser, the round button.
Ah, thanks. Yeah. So the triangle block there, that's where the development is proposed to be constructed, but it also does affect block 10, which is the car park there, and also it also affects the pond, so it affects this block here. So even though it's listed on the side as block 9, the DA is actually over all 3 blocks. And it's zoned CZ1, so medium density housing is permitted. Because the application was lodged in January 23, it is being assessed under the Territory Plan 2008, which has now been repealed. And yeah, good luck finding the relevant documents online now. It's difficult, it's all in one PDF. Yes, it will be assessed, continue to be assessed under the old Territory Plan. And under that plan, the maximum number of stories permitted is 2, and maximum plot ratio is 100%. So the last application that was reviewed, the reconsideration application, we're talking 9 stories, and we had a plot ratio of 4:1. So a 4, and also there was a 200% increase in density on what was actually permitted. I might just touch on, because it's not in here, that this particular block is the last block under a holding lease and a deed of agreement. Not many people would know that. It's insider knowledge, unfortunately. So in the deed of agreement and the EDP plan was actually approved through a DA, the number of dwellings permitted on that site was 58. So that gives you an idea of what was intended at the time. And also in the Casey concept plan, the future development was described as medium density townhouses and apartments, generally 2 to 3 stories, maximum 4. So that's what was envisaged for this parcel. But what we're presented with is 3 towers with 170 dwellings at the moment. But other matters that we're concerned about are what's happening with blocks 12 and 13. That's those 2 there. Also zone CZ1. And these are the handback sites that went to the government as part of the deed and the EDP for community facilities. We do know that the government in the last budget committed funds for the construction of a combined ambulance and fire and rescue centre for Casey. But my searches today revealed absolutely nothing so far as, a development application or anything. There's not been one blade of grass moved on the site, and that was the last we heard. I also did find out today, I chased up with the Suburban Land Agency that they're a bit embarrassed by the fact that they haven't reached a point where they can exhibit the EDP for these 2 parcels. But they are expecting that there will be some information forthcoming from the government in about 2 weeks' time in relation to the proposed mix of uses for the site. And then the contact who did present to the council a year ago, and he acknowledged, and that's Rod Baxter, he acknowledged it's been 12 months since he last presented to the council, but he's looking at hopefully coming back very soon. So here we are, of course, because whatever happens there, plus there's the new college. These are all developments that are going to add to the traffic around the Casey Group Centre, and we've got very little feedback from Minister Steele about those traffic issues. He talked about the different traffic modelling, micro, meso, and macro.
That's it. That's the one.
That's the one. That's the one.
Mesoscopic.
Yeah.
Mesoscopic.
Yeah, I had to Google it. And we were all left scratching our heads, including Ms. Susan Orr, who was the sponsor for the petition, and she did follow up with Minister Steele, I think it was in July 23, asking, can we get some more feedback, please? But as far as I understand, we're still waiting. Right, so yes, now this is the development proposal. So So the original submission, as mentioned, was 3 stories, 3 towers, 9 to 11 stories. It was 34 metres tall. There were meant to be 219 units. Plot ratio was 5:1, and there were 364 car parks. Because a lot of the submissions were concerned about car parking, one of the things that they did to address residents' concerns in the resubmission was, we'll keep the same number of car parks, but we'll take out 2 stories. So it went down, so the 11th story tower was reduced to 9, so it ended up being very blocky, with 170 residents. Plot ratio still 4:1, which is 4 times what's permitted under the territory plan. And there's impacts on the pond. I'd like to mention there that because of the nature of the development, the scale of the development, the developer was required to consult the National Capital Design Review Panel. Bear with me for a sec. I picked up the wrong one, haven't I? That's what's here. Never mind. So, the Design Review Panel said that they could only support 4 to 8 stories on the site, but that support was dependent upon a complete review of the overall planning for the Casey Group Centre. So basically a rehash of the concept plan insofar as it applied to the group centre. So their support was conditional, but then again it was only for 4 to 8 stories. And they were supposed to go back and reconsult with them, but they didn't do that. So we've been told that the amended plans will be coming in on the 15th of March. That's what the ACAP orders stipulated, that the amended plan should be submitted by that date. I have posed a question to ACLA, well, what if they're not? What will ACLA's response be if the plans are not received? Will the applicant go back to the ACAP to seek an extension of time to submit? Will ACLA perhaps agree to an extension of time outside of the ACAP process? Or will they do what they probably should do, which is reconfirm the previous decision and refuse it? But we just have to wait and see what happens. So that's Friday. So it usually takes them a couple of weeks to go through the document check process and prepare all the notification details. So we'll just have to keep an eye on the website and see if it goes on public notification in the near future. So yeah, so this is our timeline. So it was lodged, it's been over a year now. It was lodged in January. I can't read that actually. Yeah, so that's where we are now. So we're waiting.
Further amendments.
Yeah.
Due by
So the ACAP basically washed its hands of the appeal because they ran out of time. The ACAP requires appeals to be finalised within 120 days. It was clear when we attended the directions hearing on the 14th of Feb, the presidential member was not happy that none of the orders had been complied with. and it would be impossible to litigate the appeal within the 120 days. So the final decision from the ACAT to set aside the previous refusal and remit it back to ACLA didn't really come as a surprise, because they simply ran out of time. They had planned to apply to the ACAT for an extension of time so that they could continue on with their negotiations. But it appears that extension of time wasn't granted. So this is where we are now. So those plans are due on the 15th, and we are also waiting, as mentioned earlier, for further information about the estate development plan and the proposed uses for blocks 12 and 13, and hopefully maybe next meeting, maybe
In April, yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
they might come back and give us an update on that. So, sit on, what's next?
Well, it's gone through most of that to let everyone, the whole process,
Yeah, we've done that,
all the
we've done
different
that.
bits. And now we're at a point where we're waiting for Friday to see if the plans will be entered, and then we will have an opportunity again as a community to come together and voice our opinion on this development, and whether we agree or disagree with it. We have an open voice. We are seeking support from the community for this development, especially for people who live in Casey, Ngunnawal, or in the Lickers area, especially, who will be impacted by the increased infrastructure, cars. There's a school across the road, which links the high schools, preschool, primary schools. There's 1,000 children that will walk past this development with all this going on. So the road and road extensions as well. So traffic in, traffic out is also a problem. So we're really, really seeking, if anyone has time, to go on and see if those plans are there. And we'll be putting up Facebook posts to let everyone know as well, and let everyone be aware. And we hope that the Gungahlin Community Council will let us post on their page and give you the opportunity to put your voice out there. Thank you.
Thanks, Helen.
Thank you so much.
Does anyone have any questions? Just to let you know, we've put questions on notice to ask lots of questions with regard to what we discussed the other day, even have they thought about duplicating the roads, what the cost will be, and the conversations, all of that sort of stuff. So that will be up on the Assembly notice paper next week to see. So that happened today. So I'll let you all know what the response comes back.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think one of the main thing we do as a Gungahlin Community Council is engage with the local group and support wherever we can, and we would love to have you guys and support you in any aspects as well. So yeah, I think one of the questions we had in Facebook was like what we can do, because these are the issues like lighting for Arabic, and then the SES building. There's no SES building. There's no police station available. So all these issues, what we can do. That's the voice in the community at the moment. Considering it's an election year, I think it's a great opportunity for anyone who wants to win the election. It's a time for you to rise up and take these on notice and make sure there's all been how your policy going to be driving factor for some of these issues, which is kind of ongoing issues. So if you go to our website, you can see we did a couple of budget submissions. So it's a great starting point to see what we think as the Gungahlin Community Council, what we need for the community. So there's no employment in Gungahlin, as you all know. So the exodus happened in the morning, and then the exodus comes back. So we go out of Egypt in the morning and then come back. So we never reach the promised land. I want the Gungahlin to be the land of milk and honey, rather than going around in the wilderness. I think that's the last 10 years it's kind of a wilderness experience. We don't have enough job opportunities. The roads are not duplicated. We always playing catch up. We don't have a good health facilities. We don't have the community center for a community center. We don't have a youth center. We pretty much catch up on every single thing. But what in other end, what everyone wants to do, they want to dump, like a multi-story building in the middle of the suburbs or in the town centre, which has been originally allocated for something else. So this is what's happening, and we're all welcome for the development, but it has to be the right proportion at the right place at the right time, not randomly scattered around. So that's the one thing we keep on working. So look at our budget submission, which we did recently as well. That would be a good point for you guys to understand, what we stand for, what we really need for the Gungahlin community, like some of the all of Ospark Drive, that needs to be duplicated. Gundaroo Drive, that needs to be duplicated. Mirabi Drive, if you look at the morning, every morning in the Mirabi Drive, it's a nightmare. It is a nightmare. So just to, other day we have to go to the hospital for emergency, so off the way we couldn't cross, so we just rang the ambulance. That's the reality. We don't have a health center, and we had a great opportunity to put a good hospital in Gungahlin, but we decided not to do that. So, and that means the growing community in Gungahlin. At one stage, Gungahlin is the fastest growing community in Australia, region in Australia. So there is a lot of potential. There is a lot of opportunity for development. There's opportunity for business and all those things, but we are always playing catch up. Sorry, John.
I have some updates on things that you've spoken about, if that's appropriate. I can give some further update on the Yerrabee Pond situation.
Yeah, sure. Do you want to come?
Thank you. Darren and I are meeting with Minister Tara Chain in April. Now, she has a reputation of doing things down in Belconnen. She got $730,000 spent for a 3-seat toilet block. There are 5 down there. We have one block of 2 disgusting toilets at Yerrabee Pond, as you're aware. You're also aware that when that was built, there were approximately 10,000 people. There's now close to 90,000. Now, Darren and I are meeting with her and Michael Pedersen to really hammer home the disadvantage that this area has suffered because of the lack of government interest. And we're hopeful that we can make representations to her that will be substantially an improvement in this area. Now, the other day I was down at the disgusting toilet block to check it out after reporting it. One of them was not working on the weekend, and I saw a guy looking around, and it turned out he was a contractor, and he had all the documents that have been put out by the government, and I don't think too many people have seen these, for the development. There's 3 separate tenders being called for. One at the existing toilet area, which is going to be demolished, and they're going to put new toilets in the block as you come in off the road on the left-hand side. That's going to be toilets in there. They're going to do a massive redevelopment on the other side of where the shed is that you can get under now. That's going to be done. They're going to do toilets over at Bysand Street, and there was the 3rd one I didn't get a good chance to look at. But they have called for tenders on that. Now today, I've been with Michael Pedersen's office, and I've asked for these documents to be forwarded because if they're known to people who are bidding on it, we should as a community know about it, right? So that's what we're looking at there. Now, there has been another development as late as today. We've also been with Michael Pedersen. I live in the Grave, or known as the Grove Retirement Village, and there's an enduring problem there of people leaving the grove. I counted 29 vehicles going past before somebody could get out the other day. Now, this is going to be an ongoing thing, which the previous speaker has just spoken about the traffic. What Lend-Lease are doing, and Lend-Lease are the people who are developing that block, which is going next door, which is going to have a nursing home, which is very, very much needed, of 120 odd beds, and it's going to put another 40 odd villas in that area. Now, we've been saying to them, well, look, that's all very well, but there's going to be a massive traffic hold up for people trying to get in and out of there, and we need the slip road that Lend-Lease have said they're going to put in the slip road, so, or an acceleration lane, so that you can come out of a dedicated lane from Monty Place, which will be the only exit, I might add, for the nursing home as well. And they're going to put another lane in there, which they term an acceleration. The next one down when you go up to the shops at Gungahlin. There's no way they'll ever duplicate that because it would cost millions to put the bridge in that needed to be there. So the only satisfactory situation, which Lend-Lease, the developers, realised, is to put a slip road in. But that slip road, according to their documentation they've shown to us as residents, is not going to go in until the whole project is finished in 5 years' time or more. So we are starting a petition which will in effect support what Casey people are doing, and we're going to put a petition in for the immediate start to plan to put the slip road in. Because realistically, if it was given approval today, it'd be 2 years before you'd see the thing in operation. So I just thought that it might be of interest to forecast that as happening. Now, I've had a call today from Ian Bushnell from Riot ACT about a variety of things. I've told him what is going on here tonight with the Casey presentation, and also this is happening. So we're starting to get traction, but it's been a painful experience, as you folk have found out. And unfortunately, Minister Steele has never done what he said he would do. We've had very little reasonable dealing with TCS. They are an absolute disgrace, and I have no hesitation in saying that in open company. Darren has been very moderate in his language. I'm not so moderate because I don't have to worry, but basically, we have been so poorly treated here, it's disgraceful. And I know our members, particularly our 3 outstanding members, 2 of whom are here tonight, have been pressing and doing things for us to get what we deserve here. But it's been a thankless and so far not a very rewarding task. But there does seem to be some light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you.
Can I follow up?
Thanks.
I just want to say quickly that what John was talking about, there was a question before about the lighting at Yarrowby Pond, and I just wanted to address that, but I wanted to make sure that I talked about the parking issue first because it is a separate issue. There's so many. Initially, when I joined the Community Council, one of the things that I was really concerned about in Yarrowby Pond, out of all of the matters that were there, was in regards to some incidents that happened at Yarrowby Pond. So there was some sexual assaults that actually happened on younger girls, essentially, that were walking around Yarrowby Pond in the evening. And the police called for witnesses to the incidents and things like that. And what I've tried to do over at least the last 7 years is to put budget submissions through the Community Council. And each of us as volunteers, we don't always get to dictate to the council what happens, and sometimes we've got to be very careful about what we put forward as issues that we want to put. And one of the things that my submission, or my valuable submission that I put through, was for lighting for Yarrowby Pond. Now, for 7 years nothing happened. We formed the Friends of Yarrowby Pond, we had a petition, they did your say. What came through pretty crystal clear was a lot of women said that they just weren't really safe around Yarrowby Pond. And I thought that probably would have been enough for the government to not just hear it from me, not just hear it from the Community Council, but to hear it from the community as well. And I would have thought that in the 21st century, when women say, look, we don't really feel safe in this particular area, would we prioritise maybe some lighting in the area to make us feel a little bit safer at night time? One of the issues with Gungahlin, I feel, is that a lot of us work in different areas of Canberra. Some of us work in Tyrone, some of us work in Balcon, and some of us work in the city. And often, a lot of the times, by the time we get home, after travelling, the only times that we get to exercise or enjoy the parks and gardens is later in the evenings. And unfortunately for Yarrabee Pond, for whatever reason, lighting wasn't really something that the government really invested in. So the government did begrudgingly sort of look at lighting upgrades for Yarrabee Pond, and they did some experiments with some solar lighting in some areas, but they found that those solar lights, for whatever reason, are not applicable, and now they're going to be looking at wired options. But one of the things that concerns me is that the lighting that they're putting through is really piecemeal. They've never really gone down to the ponds at night time to try and work out where potentially the darker areas are, the areas that people feel unsafe. And in the interim, we've had more attacks. And so what really, I guess, makes me angry about this scenario is when I do talk to the government about these issues, they don't seem to think that they're important. Or they don't seem to feel the urgency in the situation. And when I hear about more predominantly young women being assaulted, sexually assaulted, it's just to be walking around the ponds and feel unsafe and not feel that area is very safe. One of the biggest concerns to me is the children's playground down there. I really feel that the most vulnerable people that are there are essentially in that children's playground. And that's one of the things that I push for, potentially some cameras or something to be in that area. Because every time when an incident like this happens, the government asks for video footage or witnesses. And now I don't know where you're going to get video footage from at Yarrabee Ponds. There's no cars essentially that are going to be driving around the paths there in order to get dash cam footage from. So one of the things that I'm sort of looking at is something like in Glebe Park. Now if you walk around in Glebe Park and have a look, cameras everywhere. Now there's a reason for that. They've had incidents in the past. That's something that could be potentially a solution. There isn't enough lighting down there, and one of the issues is that you do have apartments sort of looking onto the ponds there, but if you can't see anything down there and it's completely dark, then no one's going to see anything. So you don't have that passive surveillance that they often talk about. So I've been talking at length with the government. Sure, they have done a preliminary study and had a look at some of the lighting options there, and the funding apparently is there, but I don't really have a time frame. And from what I gathered from one of my conversations with TCCS, is they're sort of not sure where they're going to put them. They're not committing to lighting the whole area around Yarrabee Ponds. But what I'd like to see is some of those areas that are particularly dangerous. One of the things that I don't know is where were those attacks? That's something that I don't know. If attacks happened, where were they? Is there some correlation to it? Are they in the darkest areas of Yarrabee Pond? Are they areas? That's the reason why I asked for a risk assessment that could take into consideration some of these factors. That maybe some of the lighting is like this particular area around the ponds here. You can't really see it here, but it's around the bottom here. It's particularly dark, and a lot of people have said, and it's not just women either. There's men that have been attacked. Like a gentleman on a bike jumped off a bike and tried to fight him and bash him and things like that. So everybody's at risk, but I just feel that something needs to be done about it. I really feel like I've done everything that I could possibly imagine to do. It's balls in the government's court. We really would like something done about it.
Thanks, Darren. So I think this is an election year, and it's a great opportunity for the people in the Gungahlin region to make your voice heard. And when you see those candidates, so you can make sure you let them know, what you want to see in the community, what you want to see around the Yarrabee Pond, what you want to see in the roads, and all kind of things. So do that as we are in the election year. I think it's a great opportunity. I also want to acknowledge that we have two MLAs today on the floor, so thanks Leanne and Andrew for coming down. So hopefully, I know you guys doing what you can do, but we have done petitions, we have done applications or whatever it is, every format, like a letter to ministers, and nothing seems to be working. So I think it'd be that as a community, we come together in one cause and raise these concerns. If you have any concerns in your region as well, feel free to send it across so we can consolidate and work along as well. Any updates from you, Andrew or Leanne, regarding Gungahlin?
No, just
No.
that I share your frustration
Yeah.
being in opposition, that, we can ask all of the questions, even knowing that mindfulness and helping as well, if the government still acts. It just goes to show that Yerrabee is forgotten and just left languishing, and it's not good enough. So we'll keep fighting. Talk to me, bring me, do whatever you need, and I'll keep pushing help.
Cool.
Yes, I would say in terms of the pace of what I want to see done for you, one of the parts of Gungahlin as well to what I want to do in the time frame. Yes, there needs some improvements at the moment, but I would love to see lighting around a complete pond so people feel safe to do a complete perimeter and do their exercise that way. I was just thinking in terms of going to Casey. I do know the last budget had the funds dedicated for economic design for the Joint Emergency Services Centre. You have not heard any update as to that actual design. So I imagine as the work is probably ongoing now. John, I've just looked through also the link to those documents about the toilets and equipment pond. So you know about those. And also keep up your fight in terms of development. It's good to see the system working in terms of they started developing proposed 11 pack and one pack, and proposed 9 and one pack. My concern now is what's now happening between Act Club and the developer behind closed doors with our community inputs. My concern particularly on the old piece of legislation, which we went to a lot of work to replace that for very good reasons. And it's something that we'll have to keep on working on just as we get through all these DAs which go through the old system.
Thanks, Andrew and Lane, for that. I think we have come to the close, and thank you once again for coming down. Thanks to all the speakers, and looking forward to seeing you all next month, and signing off from online. And thank you for joining us on Facebook as well. Thank you, and God bless. Have a good